Watch that special show at 10 p.m. this evening on Spotlight. Now, let me turn my attention to a very interesting report that has been put out by ORF and TeamLease. It talks about the criminalization of business in India. It sifts through the many thousands and thousands of laws, different laws at the center and the state that we have administering different kinds of businesses, and how many of them have jail terms attached to them. There are over 20,000, and there are sometimes jail terms for very minor lapses in filing of some paperwork, etc. Now, this report looks at how this really weighs down businesses and makes recommendations on how to truly improve ease of doing business, where it is something that is experienced and not just lip service that is paid. So to speak on this, I have the co-authors of the report with me on the show today, Gautam Chikermane, Vice President of ORF, and Rishi Agrawal, co-founder and CEO of TeamLease. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for speaking with us today. Gautam, let me come to you first. I know that this is a subject which is close to your heart. You've spoken about this on my show earlier as well, and have been very peeved with the kind of red tape that businesses face. Can you start by giving us a brief overview of what this report attempts to highlight?
Thanks, Tamanna. I'm surprised and actually delighted that you remember my frustration with this subject, and now all of this is out in this new report, Jailed for Doing Business. And here is a small window with which to view India's business regulatory universe. There are 1,536 laws, of which more than half of them carry imprisonment clauses. Remember, we are only talking about business laws. There are 69,233 compliances that come under these laws, of which 2 out of 5 carry imprisonment clauses. More than half the imprisonment clauses that businesses have to... Please remember, all this is at an aggregate. So there is some misunderstanding and a lot of ranting going on about people saying that there is not a single business that has to face 69,000 compliances, etc. And we agree. I am just pointing you to the regulatory universe in India. More than half the imprisonments carry a jail term of more than 1 year, and 2 out of 5 between 1 year and 3 years. To illustrate what this means, we are talking about power. We have given immense power. We are talking about the Inspector Raj. To show you what it means, an MSME in India can be inspected by 20 inspectors at any time. Do you know, there are 69 million enterprises across India, and only 1 million are formal employers. More than 90% of the Indian employers stay small by choice. They choose, in case their business grows, they create another company or another entity rather than expand this. Why? The moment an entrepreneur aspires for growth, the company raises its head to expand its scale and become part of the formal economy. It leads to more than 400 compliances a year that become applicable as soon as the setup is formalized overnight. This is the problem that we are looking at. When we studied these compliances, we counted them, we engaged with them, we studied them, and have come out with this report. If you give me some time, I would like to point out I want to make 3 quick points. Do I have that kind of time?
I'll come back to you. Let me get Rishi in as well. I'll come back to you. I know it's a passionate subject for you, but I want to put this simply so that people can understand what this report is trying to say, and which is why I have juxtaposed it with the stated attempt to make doing business easier. Now, Rishi, let me come to the specific question, which Gautam also mentioned, that you're talking about absolute number of laws. You're aggregating all the laws there are, and then, those figures look really big. On an average, a small business, what are the most difficult sort of laws that they have to maneuver which have jail terms attached to them? Can you give us a few examples?
Sure, Tamanna. First of all, thank you so much for having us on the show today. Small business, Tamanna, is, let me first paint what I mean by a small business. A business with about 100 people, 100 to 200 people, a manufacturing setup in one state. That's my small business here. Anything informal we don't even talk about, because none of these compliances are applicable to an informal business. Only when they become formal is when the compliances become applicable. Now, for a company that I just mentioned, the number of licenses and registrations when they get off the ground can range between 40 and 80, depending on the sector, the industry, and so on. And then on an ongoing basis, the number of compliances that this company deals with ranges between 400, 450, all the way to about 1,000 compliances a year. This is a small business that we are dealing with. This business makes about 10 to 15 crores of revenue in a manufacturing setup. Now, in terms of compliances, about 55% of the overall compliances that this business does are from labor. Out of them, 1/3 of them are from the Factories Act. In terms of criminality, now, since the report is all about criminality, I want to focus on criminality. In terms of criminality, while labor comprises 30% in terms of acts, 47% in terms of compliances, labor comprises a disproportionate 68% in terms of criminality. Among the criminal provisions, majority of them comes from the Factories Act.
Give me an example. Sorry to interrupt you, Rishi, because if you're going to throw so many numbers at it, the message sort of gets blurry. Give me an example of a criminality attached to a law governing a small business which you think is excessive.
Sure.
Allow me. Let me have some fun here.
Okay.
Tamanna.
Yes.
Allow me. Not whitewashing latrines and urinals once in 4 months under the Factories Act 1948 and related rules carries the same jail term as for acts of sedition under the Indian Penal Code.
Wow.
Not furnishing monthly details of inward supplies in Form GSTR2 under the Goods and Services Act 2017 carries the same imprisonment term as for assault or the use of criminal force on women with the intent to disrobe under IPC. Not displaying stock and price, not displaying stock and price of liquefied petroleum gas at a conspicuous place of business under the Essential Commodities Act 1955 and related rules carries the same jail term as collecting arms with the intention of waging a war against the Indian government under IPC.
Wow.
This, Tamanna, has been the context of economic policy making over the past 7 decades. Even today, in the
Tamanna,
middle of
let me add a question.
Entrepreneurs.
Let me add a question. Okay, so these frankly ridiculous sounding laws are there where you can get technically arrested for not whitewashing a latrine or a urinal if you're running a business, and the many other examples that Gautam gave. My question to you, Rishi, is how many of these are actually implemented? I mean, if you go looking, then our entire IPC is littered with examples of all these archaic laws which are carried over from British times. They are still very much there, but they're not very usually implemented. So practically, how big a problem is this?
Practically, it's a big problem, Tamanna. We have given an inordinate amount of power in the hands of inspectors. So if you don't see people going to jail, that does not mean that the fear of this getting implemented is not there. This has bred nepotism, rent-seeking, corruption. You see a lot of that going on. In fact, I've been running a RegTech for a while now, and in my last 6-7 years doing that, I've met literally a few thousand entrepreneurs in the country. And I'm yet to find a single entrepreneur who can come back and say he or she is happy with the prevailing situation on ease of doing business in the country. When you have so many consumers give you a common message, there's no point in breaking the thermometer. Breaking the thermometer doesn't change the temperature. We need to take it seriously and do something about it.
Okay, so let me come to the question of do something about it. And Gautam, do you want to add to this point that all of this truly sounds alarming? Are these implemented? Do entrepreneurs in this country face this on a daily basis? Has anyone been put in jail for one of these really extreme kind of laws?
So I think Rishi gave you that answer in terms of rent seeking and bribery and corruption. So I will leave that aside. Now let me ask you a counter question here, and that's a rhetorical answer. If there is a law in this country, and that law is being in breach, And if nobody is being punished or jailed, what does it say about state capacity? What it means is that the state has failed in ensuring that all the entrepreneurs of India should be in jail. They should not be doing business. They should not be creating jobs. They should not be creating wealth. They should not be paying taxes. They should be in jail, because the smallest of infractions have multitude of implications in terms of jail terms. In that case, if they are not in jail, then what Rishi is saying must be true. The abuse of power.
Yeah.
Let us assume it's not abuse of power, but it is a benign person who loves India and says, okay, I'll look the other way. Then he is cheating the state. That official is not doing his duty.
Yeah.
Hence, what we are suggesting is compliance reforms, which we believe are going to do to business what the industrial policy, India's statement on industrial policy in 1991 under Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao did to the opening up of the economy. We believe that compliance reforms are the last mile hurdle. If Prime Minister Narendra Modi goes ahead with them, it will give such a boost to the Indian economy, not only to the Indian entrepreneurs who will now get more dignity and respect, but the foreign capital that is coming in to invest into India.
Yep. Rishi, I want to round off with last comments before I wrap up this conversation. Are you hoping with the publishing of this report that someone out there is listening, perhaps someone out there is watching and, understands that you actually need to walk the talk. You need to dispense with these laws. Again, everything that the government is saying that it wants to do.
So, Tamanna, I am not only I don't think somebody is watching. I'm confident something will happen on this. The intent of the current dispensation at the center is very clear. We have heard the finance minister recently mention ease of doing business 2.0 in her budget speech. We have heard Prime Minister talk about it from the ramparts of Red Fort on the 15th of August. We have seen their intent to go and clean up the system. Over the last year and a half, we have helped many departments of the government do some of these exercises. So I know the political intent, the political will is there. Our attempt here is to provide data, to provide the details, because devil lies in the detail. Intention or hope is not good enough. So our attempt here is to provide data-driven information which can help derive meaningful actions and help clean up the system so that we can pave the super highway to get to $10 trillion economy in this decade.
Well, the start would be to dispense with laws which are redundant, which are lying around. Even if they're not implemented, they can be used as a sword over someone's head who's trying to do business. Thank you so much, Gautam and Rishi, for joining us on the show this evening. We'll take a very short break here on the India Development Debate, but we'll be back with a lot more. Stay tuned.